Hi, Rewatch Podcast listeners. I'm Cory.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Nathan.
First off, let me say that we have all had a blast doing the Rewatch Podcast. Every week, we put out another episode for free for you. And although we enjoy these discussions with each other, we truly do this for you guys out there in podcast land.
That's right, Cory. But we are here today to tell you about Patreon. Every week, there are costs involved in podcasting about film and television, including hosting and bandwidth charges, our own personal internet usage, and film or show rentals and purchases. So, we're asking you to become a Patreon supporter.
If you can afford as little as $1 to throw our way per month, it would really help us keep the lights on. And if you want to send $100 our way every month, we wouldn't turn that down either. But it's your choice, and we appreciate the support you bring.
As always, we strive to bring you the best quality shows we can create, and we hope that you enjoy them. So head on over to patreon.com/rewatchpodcast to become one of our patrons and show your support for the Rewatch Podcast.
And if we get enough patrons, we may even be able to produce exclusive content just for the supporters in the form of simply getting episodes before the main feed release, or even bonus film discussion episodes as a thank you for your support. The website again is patreon.com/rewatchpodcast.
Thanks, everyone.
What if you could find brand new worlds right here on Earth, where anything is possible? Same planet, different dimension. I found the gateway.
The Rewatch Podcast presents the Sliders Rewatch, dedicated to the series Sliders on Fox and Sci-Fi Channel. Join us each week as we continue crossing the Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky Bridge and find ourselves in strange new worlds. Email your thoughts on each episode to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast or on Twitter @rewatchpod.
And welcome back to the Rewatch Podcast and our Sliders Rewatch. I'm Cory.
And I'm Vortex Physics, which means I don't really exist.
Ah, yes, that old Vortex Physics.
Yes. Did I ever exist, really?
Yeah. Got something to say about that.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us, everybody. We are, of course, here discussing 2 more episodes of Sliders this week. It is the end of season 4.
All right. Yeah.
Can you believe it?
1 more season left. We can do this.
Yes, and these final 2 episodes of season 4 are Roads Taken and Revelations. But first we have just a tiny bit of by the way before we get into it.
Yes. This was, actually, I've been meaning to talk about this. Went to Los Angeles. Was it back in December? And actually, no, was it December? No, it was November, actually. And we were driving along. We, going there. This is the first time we'd really been there. And my girlfriend and I were driving, and I'm like, oh my God, here, take my phone, get a picture of that. I look over to my right, and what do I see but a blue bridge, very similar to the Azure Gate Bridge in Sliders.
Cool.
I was like, take a picture of that. And I thought we had taken a picture, but I can't find the picture now. I'm looking through my camera roll. It's like, not there. And I'm like, what the heck? I know we took a picture. But anyway, there was a blue bridge. I was like, what the heck? And so since I couldn't find my picture, I looked up, in California, a blue bridge. And the only one that came up was something called the Vincent Thomas Bridge. And I'm like, that must be it. That must be the one. It is blue. It seemed like a brighter blue in the picture than what I saw in real life. So it could just be the picture, the way it was, posted up. But I was like, that's cool. I'm like in the alternate dimension. Arturo could be around here. You never know. It's that bridge. It's Azure Gate World. So,
yeah. Waves freaking out somewhere.
Exactly. There's always a possibility. So, yeah, I thought that was cool. I was like, so if I ever do find that picture, I will post that up. However, I do have another picture that I will post up on Facebook when this episode goes up. I have been watching I've been watching Sliders on Vudu because they had season 4 on there for $10, and I own season 1, 2, and 3 on DVD. I could not bring myself to buy season 4 on DVD, for $20. So I'm like, I found it on Vudu for $10. However, I found out that Amazon has season 4 and 5 of Sliders for only $5 each for streaming. And I'm like, oh, that's even a better deal. So I bought season 5 on Amazon so I could watch that on the go as well, so I can watch it at work or wherever. Now, here's the thing. I looked to see, the other seasons, like season 1, 2, 3, and they have those streaming on Amazon as well. They're a little more expensive. Not like breaking the bank. It's like $10 or $12.
Yeah, but they're the better episodes, so they can.
They are the better episodes. But here's the thing. I looked at season 3 streaming on Amazon, and it tells you, like, real quick, it says, season 2 Sliders starring Jerry O'Connell, Sci-Fi, $10.99 or whatever. So I look at it at the one for season 3, and I had no idea. We had no idea that this guy was so popular. It says Sliders season 3 starring Lester Barry, otherwise known as Diggs.
Oh, wow.
So Sliders season 3, we had no idea that he was starring in season 3. Did you know
obviously he was the star. I think
star.
we talked about him every episode of season 3.
It's just so funny to me. I'm like, what the heck? Starring Lester Barry. And the thing is, right above Sliders season 3 streaming, you have Sliders 3rd season DVD, and it says starring Jerry O'Connell. Why would you just not use the same text? Starring Lester Barry. Because,
Wow.
I was amused by that. What can I say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This whole time, we didn't even know he was the star of season 3.
I bet if we go back and watch the whole show from the very beginning again and just look at it from Diggs' point of view, I think our eyes would be open.
Yeah. We're writing that fanfic. Every episode is Diggs' POV. The whole
There you
time.
go. I like it.
Weird. All right, well, let's get into our episode 1 discussion today. The episode is Roads Taken, and we have teleplay by Bill Dial, with story by Mark Scott Zickery, and directed by Mr. Jerry O'Connell. And this originally aired on April 16th of 1999.
I've checked all over the lobby. Talked to the clerk and to the reporter. No one's seen a man with that description.
Like I said, it could have been a ghost.
I don't even think about that right now. Look, does $50 for a handful of ice cubes sound right to you?
Quinn and Maggie are running a fever.
Fever? Are you sick?
Looks that way.
I wonder how it could happen.
I don't know.
It had to be that crazy slide. They were all right until then.
Could have been something to do with that man or that ghost. He did something with his hands.
Well, did he come back?
No. He had some kind of strange presence. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, well, I want to land on a world where everything is easy to explain. No more wars, no more Cro-Mags. Just peace and quiet for a change.
Go on ahead. Go on ahead. Go.
Go on ahead. What does he mean?
Remy and Colin find themselves in the middle of a very rough slide, arriving in a war-torn world. Sans Maggie and Quinn, the vortex closed. When the vortex opens again a few minutes later, the two claim that for them there was no rough slide or weird vortex anomalies, and they make their way to the Chandler Hotel. Quinn and Maggie fall into a deep sleep and soon appear to be getting sick, while we are treated to what appear to be dreams of Quinn and Maggie's romance in an alternate world. Colin and Remy are startled by a ghost-like figure standing over the beds, working imaginary controls and dials, who appears later in a more solid form, announcing himself as Thomas Mallory, the child of Quinn and Maggie. During this last slide, a bubble universe was created based on Quinn and Maggie, with half of them trapped in there and half of them sliding as usual. In order to save the real physical Maggie and Quinn, Thomas is determined with Colin that the bubble universe needs to end. Thomas jury-rigs the timer and slides everyone to a white room where we see old Maggie and old Quinn awaiting their end. Together they join with our Maggie and Quinn in a bright flash, and our heroes find themselves sliding once again into the same alley they slid into earlier, with Maggie and Quinn retaining their old memories of their bubble universe life and ready to make new ones together.
Your friend is quite right. Oh, no, don't be frightened. Look, I'm here to help.
Who are you? Where the devil did you come from?
I'm a trans-dimensional traveler, just like you. It's not easy to explain what has happened here. I only just figured it out myself. And I'm sorry that I had to appear so ghost-like before, but I had to make certain that I maintained a link, you know, just an anchor, if you will, to my own world while traveling to this one. All right. During your last trans-dimensional journey?
We call them slides.
Oh, I see. All right. During your last slide, then, something odd happened to the electron field of your friend's physical composition.
I knew there was something weird that happened with that.
I mean, see, you two weren't affected, but they were spun off and became the focal point of a kind of bubble universe. But forgive me if this isn't quite clear, but I'm still working out the physics myself.
You're a physicist?
Sorry. Forgot to introduce myself. I'm Thomas Mallory.
Mallory?
On the world I come from, I'm their son.
Okay, so trivia galore here.
Yeah, so
Trivia overload.
exactly. So there's the biggest thing about this is there's a lot of extra dialogue in different scenes. So there's extra dialogue with Colin and Remy when they first arrive in the world, you know, where they're in the alleyway there. There's extra dialogue later on with the soldier, talking about how, you know, we don't have any medics or doctors available. So the scenes just go on a little bit longer. You could easily see why they cut it out, just for time. The reporter that Remy was talking to, extra dialogue there about the alt history. There's a whole bunch more stuff about, you know, how the Mexicans moved against the U.S. and they went to this state and to this state and they got over here and there was a battle there and over here. So it's just a lot of extra stuff that we don't really need. So just extra stuff like that. Remy was originally going to get ice, not because because Quinn and Maggie were sick, but because he wanted to get ice for his soda. There was I guess there was like a soda in the Red Cross box, and he comes back with ice, and he has the same line about $50 for ice. Now, where's that soda I saw in that box? You know, and then that's when Colin says, "Oh wait, we need that ice over here. They're sick," or whatever.
Yeah.
So another reason for the ice. When Remy needs to find a doctor for him, he talks to the reporter first, and the reporter's the one who says, "You know what? There's no doctors here. Go talk to the army guys outside. They'll have medics." So just a little help about where he should go. But again, just it's not really needed. It just takes up time. You know, we don't need to know. Yeah,
Exactly.
No.
Bypass the middleman there.
When we start seeing these like dreamlike sequences from Quinn, that was supposed to cut short on the very first one, and we were supposed to go back to see what Colin and Remy were doing in the room. They were going to be listening to the radio. There was a news report about the war, and they were commenting on what would they do if Maggie and Quinn don't wake up soon. What are we going to do about that? Are we going to slide with them or what? Typical, type stuff that we've seen in Sliders many times before. Not really needed.
Yeah.
They decide, now this actually would have made sense. They decide after the doctor says, we're going to have to quarantine you guys because of this threat. After he leaves, they decide to go into hiding in the basement with Quinn and Maggie. That makes sense, because they don't want to be stuck with a quarantine. So they move the bodies, they go down the basement and hide away so they don't have to worry about the quarantine thing.
That does make sense.
There's also a little bit more with Thomas Mallory explaining how the bubble universe worked. It's just a lot more technobabble. Nothing that anyone in the audience is going to be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I could see how that could happen.
Yeah, I know. You don't want to make it too complicated, really.
Right. And then in a weird little explanation here about why Colin isn't in that bubble universe, Thomas says that at first I thought he said Colin got eaten by a bear, but that wasn't what happened. He said, oh, no, you got lost in the mountains above Big Bear, and we were never able to find you. So something in this bubble universe, they just lost Colin. He wasn't there. He's gone. And then, now this happens a lot. Like when you talk to someone and you say, "Hey, do you mind if I do this?" And they say, "Oh yeah, that's fine." It's almost like you're asking them if they mind, and they say yes. It's like, oh, so I shouldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what this script read like. Thomas goes to Colin, "Hey, do you mind if I call you Uncle Colin?" And Colin says, "Yes." And then it says, "Thomas smiles." I'm like, I don't think that's not what was meant there.
Yes, I do mind.
I do mind. Oh, okay. I will smile at you sheepishly. Let's see. There was some extended dialogue with Maggie and Quinn when they were in the car, and this was just a bad joke, I think. I can understand why they would not have this in here. It's just a little ridiculous. They're talking about marriage like they did, and when she starts talking about marriage, and Quinn's like, "Well, do you want to do it in a church?" And she gets all flirty, like, "What are you talking about? Do what in a church?" He's like, "You know what I meant, And then that sort of comes up later in another scene where someone else says something about doing it in a church, and it's like, what? What? Nah, come on. I understand what they were doing because they're trying to be flirty and romantic and silly, but it was like, oh, whatever. When they actually slide and they meet the old Quinn and Maggie, it was only going to be Thomas, Quinn, and Maggie who go. Remy and Colin were going to stay in the basement, hidden away, so they didn't actually slide with them. And when they do go there, there's a lot of extended dialogue with Quinn and Maggie and old Quinn and Maggie talking to each other. Some more lines here and there about, actually more techno babble stuff that's like whatever, And then finally, at the end, when they flash and, get rid of the bubble universe, Quinn and Maggie wake up back in the hiding place with Remy and Colin, and then all they do is they go outside and they slide. They don't re-slide or go back in time or whatever like they did at the end of the actual episode.
And I'm sure we'll get something to say about that.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
All right. But I guess we have just a bit of time, so why not squeeze in a quick impression?
Okay, let's do it.
All right, cue the music.
Kermit the Frog and Alan Rickman have a rough slide.
Wow, that was wild.
Something must be wrong. That was the worst slide I've ever had.
Yeah, well, I've had worse.
The vortex closes. Ah, it closed!
Yeah, I noticed.
Not concerned at all.
Stop it. Look, did you see the professor and that hick going on the other world?
They were right behind me. I'm sure they made it.
Okay, maybe they got separated away from us. It's happened before.
Professor! Hick! What if they missed the jump?
Have you got the timer?
No, that Hicks got it.
All right. That leaves two choices. Either they got left back there, which means they're stuck for 29 years, or they got dropped off someplace on this world.
I choose the second.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what kind of world this is. Yay!
And see.
Well, Kermit's a happy guy.
Putting super happy Kermit next to Alan Rickman.
I know, it's good. It's a good mix.
Nice one.
It's like the Odd Couple.
Well, Mags, are you ready?
Yes.
Thomas, for this sacrifice, there's no way we can thank you.
And no need.
Colin, Rembrandt, you may have given your life for your friends.
We know.
Put your hands on top of ours. Say it, Thomas. You know the part we like.
I have been here before, but when and how I cannot tell. I know the grass beyond the door, the sweet keen smell, the sighing sound, the lights around the shore. And you have been mine before. How long ago, I may not know. Has this been thus before, and shall not thus time's eddying flight still with our lives, our love restore, in death's despite, and day and night yield one delight once more.
All right, so let's get into our discussion of roads taken.
Yes.
So, yes, only Colin and Remy slide in after a pretty rough slide.
Right. And after, like, as soon as you see that, you know that this is some idea from Mark Scott Zickery.
Mm-hmm.
You know it's got to be.
Yes. Let's explore some crazy vortex screwing around thing.
Exactly.
But I have to call out here that Charlie O'Connell is just doing a horrific acting job in this. Oh my God, it was just terrible. We did it in the quick impressions, but he calls it a jump.
Right.
Did they miss the jump? I'm like, have we ever called it that? No, it's always a slide.
It's like the vortex out
Yeah,
thing.
the vortex out thing as well. Just weird. What? The jump? Ugh. But yeah, I don't know. He's not doing very well here at all. Huge explosion, just to sort of, I guess, try to set up something exciting.
How many times have the sliders slid in to an abandoned area and had a huge explosion?
Yeah, right.
Right at the beginning of the episode. I think, it's like I think we go back and count those. We need more than just our 10 fingers.
Yeah, but then it's just like, it's weird because the vortex just opens again. Quinn and Maggie come through and they're like, no, everything's fine. I didn't feel like anything was wrong.
Isn't it weird how they sort of dismissed the two of them?
Yeah, totally.
Like, what's wrong with you people, idiots?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the vortex. Let's go.
Exactly.
It's like, come on.
Like, Remy seems the only one who was concerned.
Right, exactly. It's like, listen to him. He's been with you for a long time. He knows what's normal and what's not.
Yeah, he's even saying, like, there's something wrong with the vortex. It's opening, it's closing, it's like, what's going on? Like, this is really bizarre. And Maggie's just like, well, you got the bonus ride. And you're just like, what? Seriously? You are crossing between dimensions and your vortex is really messing up. I think you'd be a bit more concerned.
Yes. I thought that was odd.
So, from the get-go on this episode, I am really just digging my heels in. I'm like, this is not good. Warzone again. Of course, they can get to the Chandler.
Yes.
Yes. But, it does end up going to an interesting place. As much as this opening is just terrible, they get in this thing where Quinn and Maggie go to sleep and then they can't wake up. And, it gets into Remy talking to the reporter, getting some old history stuff, which is really cool.
It is cool, but in the end, like, the old history has nothing to do with, like, their struggle in the world.
It's true.
Really.
It's true.
If you got rid of the old history and this war going on, the story could basically be the same.
But at least they're trying,
They're trying.
It's more than we can say for some episodes that we've seen lately.
It definitely is. But I mean, the Willie Nelson Suicide Brigade.
I like that. I thought it was funny.
Considering that Willie is like a big proponent of like, smoking the pot, I think the Willie Nelson Suicide Brigade would be like, dude, just let it go, man. It'll pass. No problem. I think that would be the Willie Nelson Suicide Brigade.
Yeah. But, this guy starts to appear in the room.
Yes.
Like he's tuning in. You can see he's, moving his hands like he's working some sort of dials or something. And then he disappears again. And you're like, wow, this is suddenly starting to go where I didn't think it was going to go. And I really like this actor, actually. This guy's David Dukes, who is another Dawson's Creek connection. We've had some in the past.
Right.
He played Jack and Andy's father in Dawson's Creek, and he actually appeared in probably one of the best episodes. I think it was season 2 or season 3. It was the episode where Jack McPhee comes out as gay. And it's this amazing scene between him and his father, played by David Dukes, where his father's very he doesn't want Jack to be gay. Like, the family has a lot of problems. Like, another one of his sons had died, and it sort of tore the family apart a bit. So he didn't want his son to be gay, but this whole scene where he comes out to his father and he's so angry. It's one of the best scenes in the whole series.
That's cool.
And David Dukes just kills it. So, I love seeing him show up here. He died not long after this. Great actor. Glad to see him here. Playing Thomas Mallory. And, of course, we get into this whole thing about how the Vortex has created a bubble universe that Quinn and Maggie's consciousnesses exist in now. So what did you think of this whole thing?
Well, I like the idea. And as I was watching it, it reminded me, and this comes up later in Messages in Time, it reminded me of the Star Trek Next Generation episode, Inner Light, where Picard experiences a whole lifetime. He's hit by a probe, and he experiences his whole lifetime on this other planet where he's a guy named Galen.
Oh, right. Yeah, and he learns to play the flute and stuff.
Right, and actually his real-life son played his son in this episode too, I remember.
Right.
So yeah, that was a really good episode. It was really well done with this whole idea of living a whole lifetime in just, a matter of hours or whatever. So I liked it when Inner Light did it. And in this episode, it's it's okay. It's all right. It's a good idea. I don't think they gave it enough time like they did in Star Trek. They really developed the characters in Star Trek that he was experiencing in that dream world or his trance or whatever. In this one, I don't know. I felt like it was just very rushed.
Yeah, it sort of flashed through, skipped over the early parts of it, and then sort of skimmed through the rest.
Exactly.
Until we got to it when they were old.
And that's the whole thing. It's this is an hour show, so was Star Trek The Next Gen, but I feel like I know the characters that Picard knew in that other world, really well, as opposed to, in this one, we just sort of flash through, and I don't really get a good feel for even this Quinn and Maggie in this bubble universe. It's just very surface level for me.
Yeah, and that takes us to what you were saying about this alt history stuff. As happy as I was that they were at least trying to do alt history for the world that we're on, you could have really just cancelled that out and spent more time in the bubble universe.
Exactly.
With Quinn and Maggie. Yeah. And at the same time, it kind of reminds me of a few episodes ago when the alt Maggie slid with them to that weirdo nuclear power religion world.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, Maggie flirting with Quinn was the writer's way of sort of exploring the Quinn-Maggie relationship without really actually doing it.
Exactly.
I think this is an expanded version of that.
Yeah, no, definitely. The idea, our reactions sent us some information about that. And they were, as we saw in season 3, they were really trying to push the whole Quinn-Maggie thing. And if Sliders had stayed on Fox, Fox had a, I don't know, what you call it, a mandate. They wanted the 13-episode arc in the next season, if it had stayed on Fox, to be about the Quinn and Maggie romance. So if it had stayed on Fox instead of going to Sci-Fi, we would have seen a lot more of the Quinn-Maggie thing, which I don't know. I don't like the idea. Kari said she didn't like the idea either because they were supposed to have chemistry, Kari and Jerry, or I should say Quinn and Maggie, but she said they just didn't have it. It wasn't there between Jerry and Kari, so it was hard to really do those episodes.
But, the episode goes along, we get all this stuff about how Quinn and Maggie start appearing sick, so Remy gets a doctor, and then, of course, this ends them up with the quarantine. So now, I think this is here. It's like you said in the trivia, they went down to the basement to sort of avoid all this. But maybe they got rid of that so they could have kind of a pressing on the ticking clock. We know how long they've got until they slide, but at the same time, it's we've got all these, army medical people breaking down the door too, so we really need to get on this. We need to get this sorted ASAP.
Right. They just, like, the thing, like, they try to heighten the drama, but, like, if they just paid attention to, like, where the real drama could have been and focused on that bubble universe and shown us a lot more of that, that would have made it a lot more intense, I think. Because it's just, as it is, it's like, it's all right. Okay, fine. Whatever. You know?
Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we know that they love using the Chandler Hotel set. So.
Right. Exactly.
Do we have a basement set? No? All right. Well, they're staying in the room.
Exactly.
So what can you do? But the man shows up again. And it turns out that he is a trans-dimensional traveler. He's actually figured out how to leave the bubble universe, but he kind of needed to figure out how to stay tethered to that universe so he can get back. And it turns out that he is actually the son of Quinn and Maggie. And it's like you said, like time passing, like an entire lifetime passing inside this bubble universe in the span of just an hour or so out in the real world, quote unquote. I thought it was good. Like, honestly, I've really never cared about a Maggie Quinn connection.
Right.
But if this is how they're going to play it out, and then, we're never going to hear from it again. And of course, we know that Jerry O'Connell's not coming back next season in retrospect. But, if this meant that they were going to end this before they started the new season, then I was happy with that. Let it play out, and we can see this thing about how they spent a life together and had Thomas and all that. And then, of course, by the end, when they go back into the bubble universe, and it turns out that he's sacrificing himself because he knows that his parents will die in the real world if he can't, shut it down and stuff like that. So I think it's powerful for the Thomas character.
Yeah.
In the as little development as we get with this bubble universe, I think the Thomas character actually shines through a lot because of the great work that David Dukes is doing.
Of course. Yeah. No, I agree. What I thought was a little strange was how smart Cullen was this episode. Like using the computer or whatever, and he's doing printouts, and he's talking about these equations and things like that, which, I mean, he's smart, but he still has like a lifetime of learning to do. Like, it's just because he's smart and can understand like quantum physics and all that doesn't mean he's going to understand it right away. He's still got to study it, but he was just like rattling off terms and talking with Thomas like he knew everything.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit off. Like when Remy comes back in the room and he's kind of figured all this stuff out, and I was like, seriously? But, inside the bubble universe, they get in there and we see the old Quinn and Maggie.
Yes, the old Quinn and Maggie with Quinn having an accent now.
Because old Quinn is played by George Gaines.
Yes.
And Maggie is played by Julie Adams.
Now, I don't know Julie Adams, but I know George Gaines.
Yes, George Gaines, of course, from Police Academy.
He was also, and like I forgot about this until it was mentioned in the Messages in Time. He also played Henry on the TV show Punky Brewster.
I didn't know that.
Did you watch Punky? Did you even know Punky Brewster?
No.
I used to watch it as a kid. It was basically this little girl. Her name is her actor name Soleil Moonfry is her name, I believe, and she plays this little girl named Punky Brewster. Who's a cute little kid with a lot of spunk, has a lot of catchy lines and whatnot. And I think the story is that she gets adopted by this guy named Henry, who's like an old curmudgeon, So, of course, you could see, it's like an odd couple pairing again, with this, spunky young girl and this old crotchety old guy and how they get along and, the joy that she brings to his life, So, yeah, he was the lead. He was the other lead actor in that show.
Ah, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Julie Adams she's like a classic actress, really.
Oh, okay.
Going way back to the 40s, I think, even.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And, she did some movies in the early 40s, but really she got into TV. She's a very TV-oriented person,
Gotcha.
Including things like The Andy Griffith Show and General Hospital.
Okay.
Things like that. So, I think both of them are just a bit of a get. I'd like to think that the purpose of having some veteran actors come in here is because I think that they're grasping at straws at this point.
Right.
They really want Sliders to keep going.
Yes.
So let's get in these, and we're going to talk about some more celebrity actors, some nice cameo drop-ins in the next episode too. So
Yes.
I don't know. It's a great performance from both of them, Quinn and Maggie. I thought it was a great little touch to it, but yeah, I just don't know. I just don't know how I feel about how the whole thing comes to a head. You know, the young meeting the old and coming together to close the bubble universe. I don't know. It's all very convoluted.
It's such a quick ending. Like, let's touch hands and boom, flash, white light, and then boom, everything's fine. It's like, oh, whatever. It's like such a quick ending. Like, we gotta end this somehow. How are we gonna do this?
Then they slide back in to where they originally slid in.
Yeah, which
at
makes
that
complete
time.
sense.
And I mean, we talked about this in the very first episode, the pilot episode of the series.
Right.
Arturo clearly says sliding is never time travel.
Right.
We talked about it on the Guardian episode.
Yes.
That it's not. They didn't travel back in time. They just went to a place where the Earth's rotation was a bit slower, so time was moving a bit slower. That's it.
Right. Yep.
They travel back in time and slide in again, retaining all the memories of where they've been.
Yep.
I hated that.
Yeah.
They're breaking their rules. They're breaking their own rules. It's terrible.
Right. Yeah. I was like, what the heck? Really?
I mean, all in all, I really like the stuff in the bubble universe.
Yes.
I like Thomas. All that was great. But just all the stuff that sort of bound the episode together was just blah.
Yeah. Like I said, it was a good idea. Just like the inner light. They just didn't realize it to the best that they could have, I guess.
Exactly. We were talking about this on the last episode too, about the chasm, where it was just so hot and cold all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So many good ideas wrapped together in garbage. It was... it's frustrating, really.
There was the last thing to say about this is we had mentioned a while back, because I was a fan of Quantum Leap, and when Maggie first appeared, I had said something about her possibly, being Maggie Beckett, being related to Sam Beckett from Quantum Leap, the main character. And Temporal Flux said that it was a subtle joke that was put in there because in Quantum Leap, Sam Beckett has a brother named Tom who was in the Marines, I think it was, and it's not unthinkable to think that he would become a general at some point and, have a daughter named Maggie. So it was a little joke that they put in there. And I guess apparently somewhere in season 5 we're going to see Tom Beckett or Thomas Beckett, but it's a different actor than the one who played him in Quantum Leap. So it's not really an official crossover, but it's for the fans of both shows, it's like, oh, that's cool. They could relate like that,
Interesting. So we've got to keep an eye out for that.
Yes.
And now it's time for another episode of Words to Live By with Colin Mallory.
Hey, doesn't that thing go down there?
No, I took it off this thing.
But it's not supposed to go back on this thing.
Hey, take it easy. Don't jam it on there.
You the boss or the helper today?
The boss, and I said don't jam it in there.
This has been another episode of Words to Live By with Colin Mallory. Alright, well, getting into our second episode discussion today. The episode is Revelations. Again, teleplay by Bill Dyer with story by Mark Scott Zickery. Directed by Robert M. Williams, Jr. And this originally aired on April 23rd of 1999.
Hey, guys. Listen to this. When Grobot Gormak, science officer, revealed his formula for interdimensional travel, Commander Kirch Germax knew that the possibility existed for his people to escape the wrath of Thon.
What are you reading?
Flow My Blood, the Soldier Said by Isaac Clarke.
I thought you hated science fiction.
There's also a biologic weapon in here. Sounds a lot like the one we heard about when we were in the slide cage.
Well, what we do in reality might seem like fantasy to people in another world.
Yeah, if I hadn't been along for the ride and they told me about it, I wouldn't believe anything we do.
Hey, I think I just figured it out. Chromac is a close anagram for Chromac.
Hey, look at this.
Oh my gosh. Those are Chromacs.
Our sliders find themselves with time to spare on a rather uneventful world when Remy happens upon a sci-fi novel that sounds suspiciously like their struggles they've had with the Cro-Mags, even mirroring the inability of Cro-Mag women to survive birth. They seek out the book's author, Isaac Clarke, and his daughter, and discover that he is from an alternate dimension that defeated the Cro-Mags, the very dimension that Quinn and Colin have been searching for, their homeworld. Our group, accompanied by Isaac and his daughter, managed to slide home using Isaac's special equations and coordinates to get past the slide cage. Once home, they go their separate ways. The sliders are joyfully received by Mr. and Mrs. Mallory, and the timer is passed on to Remy, who will use Mr. Mallory's work to get back home to his dimension, along with the Cro-Mag weapon. Things seem to be at an end for our heroes, but in time it is revealed that there was no slide cage, there were no microdots, and this world, while close, is not Quinn and Colin's home world. Meanwhile, Remy, who had left Colin, Quinn, and Maggie to find Isaac, has found out the truth about this world as well. The Cro-Mags of this world were not aggressive attackers, but a downtrodden race that Isaac had a part in, but ultimately regretted and helped save hundreds of Cro-Mags' lives before being discovered and exiled to an alternate dimension. Remy, Isaac, and his daughter go to rescue Quinn, Colin, and Maggie, who have narrowly escaped their capture by the Mallorys, and after a long chase scene, Isaac is captured, his daughter escapes to carry out her father's mission to expose the Mallorys, and our sliders slide to avoid being caught.
There was, as I think you know, quite a Cro-Mag problem on our world.
It seems like an understatement.
Yeah, we heard it was a full-blown civil war.
Well, a weapon was needed to put an end to it. Michael and Elizabeth Mallory were brilliant scientists. They headed the research team that developed sliding technology, and they used it to put you two on different worlds out of harm's way. And they made it available for anybody who wanted off that world away from the Cro-Mags.
But they went back.
It's their world. They wanted to fight for it. So did I. The government put together a team of their best people, and we were under a lot of pressure to develop a weapon that would win the war.
And you did?
Your parents were key to that research. In fact, your father perfected the formula that led to the solution. The Mags were destroyed, they were given the highest honors, and it was just a mopping up operation.
Something I don't understand. Why are you here? You won the war, you drove out the Mags. Your world was at peace.
I saw a lot of destruction, such death, and was the cause of a lot of it. I just couldn't face anything on my world again. And I had a brother who worked with us. He decided to stay, but I got Michael Mallory to slide me to this world.
And you became a writer?
No, not at first. I looked for work in my old profession, but I found that I had lost the will and heart to pursue it. Then I met Catherine's mother. I found happiness for the first time in a long time.
All right, so let's check out some trivia here.
So originally, and I know you can't imagine this, but they spent a lot more time on the boring world than we actually saw.
Wow.
Yes, a lot more time on the boring world.
More than, what was it, 6 weeks or something? Jeez.
Well, like not even just like that, but I'm talking about like they actually had more scenes in that boring world.
Right, more of the episode was attributed to that.
Yes, like a lot more, like ridiculously more. It's like, we don't care about this. It doesn't matter. There was supposed to be a whole lot of alt history about a war with Japan, how Los Angeles was just a barren desert now. The town was named Industry because at one point they had a tire factory there. There was exactly. There was a character. Actually, there were 2 other characters that were completely cut out. Jasper was someone who owned the place where Colin and Quinn were working at, and he shows up. You know, there's a scene of him hiring them, like discussing what their qualifications are, you know, and how'd you get here, and why are you going to LA, and why do you want to go there? And as they're fixing the truck, he comes out and he has more scenes with them, asking them when they're going to get the truck fixed. Are you done yet? How come it's not working yet? I thought you were mechanics. You knew what you were doing. So just a lot more with Jasper. Remy actually goes to work in the diner with Maggie. So there's scenes with both of them talking about how they hate the work in the diner, how he's getting dishpan hands from all the washing of the dishes.
I was actually thinking, I was like, Quinn and Colin are fixing trucks. Maggie's working at the diner. What's Remy doing? Just hanging out reading books.
Exactly. So, yeah, he was going to have a job, too. There was a scene with the Sliders sitting around talking about their adventures that they've had, the best parts, the worst parts, things like that. Just, like, sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah, talky.
Yeah, and then there was another character, Wallace Pernick, who was a librarian, and they go to the library to find books on physics and sci-fi. Well, actually, they didn't intend to find sci-fi. He was looking for magazines, Remy was, and he just happened upon the sci-fi book that was about the Cro-Mags. So they go into this whole thing with this Wallace Pernick, explaining how, Remy got the books that he got. And it's just like, what the heck, man? The one thing they did leave in from these deleted scenes, which still really makes no sense in the course of the episode, when they're fixing the truck, that man with the fancy car comes in with the cigar, and he's looking nervously over his shoulder. Remember that part?
Yeah. The guy that just comes in, they say some stuff about him, and then he's just gone.
He's just gone.
Nothing to do with anything.
Nothing to do with anything at all. It's like, what? So that was in the original script as well, but in that scene was extended too. And Colin and Quinn go up to the car and they look, and inside they see a Halliburton case, one of those heavy duty suitcases, which you don't know what could be in there. And they talk about that a little bit, that case is in this car. And the guy comes up and he's like, oh, we're just admiring your car. He's like, hey, you know what? If you see my wife and kids, they're following behind me. Just let them know I went to the next town. Meet me there. And then he drives off. And that's it. That's the end of it.
Wow, yeah, just more nothing to do with anything.
Exactly. So that's the whole first, I think it was something like the whole first act or first or second act or something like that. I forget how it went in the script. But I was like, really? That is just so boring. I mean, I know they're on there for 3.5 weeks and they wanted to really push that they were really bored, but that's too much time spent with nothing. So that's the first half of the script, basically. The second half of the script, once they find Isaac Clarke, the author, everything's pretty much the same, except in the original script, there was no brother. It was just Isaac Clarke and his daughter. And at the end, instead of saying, go to my brother, he says, take this information to the Attorney General. He's a friend of mine and he'll know what to do. So they shorten that up. And then in the original script, this must have been a mistake because it says, after Catherine talks to her father, he says, go, take this to the Attorney General. And she runs off in one direction. And the Sliders go ahead and do their chase onto the train. And then at the end, it says the Sliders, along with Catherine, leap through the vortex at the very end. I'm like, but she was going the other way.
Didn't she leave?
She left. She was going to carry out her father's dying wish. So, I don't think she's going to leave. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we have just enough time to fit in a quick impression.
Okay, let's do it.
Cue the music.
Kermit the Frog, Alan Rickman, Christopher Walken, and a hick walk up to their hotel room.
Hey, Hick, I thought you didn't get off till 6.
His boss gave him the rest of his life off.
What have you got there?
Oh, a bunch of old books. Might be something in here to kill time better than watching reruns of Touched by a Ranger. I mean, Chuck Norris is a fine actor, but on this world, he should leave that action stuff to somebody else.
Let me see one of these.
Kermit hands Alan a book.
Bebop King, The Life of Jackie Robinson, the greatest saxophone player this world has ever seen.
You see, on this world, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in what was, up until then, an all-white art form. I've got a bunch of time killers. I'm gonna take a shower.
Hey, be careful. Showers in places like this tend to attract guys with really big knives and really bad wigs.
And scene. Random. Keeping up the random theme here.
I still go into campus for lectures, of course, but actually with the internet and the television transmitter, I could do all my work right here. I just miss the interaction with my students. What was your major?
Physics major, special interest quantum mechanics.
Of course. And your education?
Mostly self-taught. My world wasn't as advanced as Quinn's.
Yeah, but you should have seen what he was working on, given his resources. Electric storage cells, flying machine. He was a local genius.
More the local witch doctor. Take your pick.
You know, when your mother and I went looking for you after that terrible war, we weren't able to find you.
My parents died of a flu epidemic. After that, I was pretty much on my own.
You know, your foster parents told me that you died in a flu epidemic. Even showed me a death certificate.
Really? I didn't know that. I was told they hid me because they didn't want to give me up and made up some story for you, but I guess that was it.
How'd you find out the truth?
I was in a Cro-Mag prison on what I thought was my world. I met my foster mother there, and she gave me the microchip. It was embedded in her arm.
Oh, the microchip.
It told him how to find me. And then after that, we found the chip you left in my foster mother's locket.
I see. Well, it was a lucky thing you ran into your foster mother during that terrible war, wasn't it? It was also a lucky thing that you connected with Dr. Isaac Clarke.
All right, so let's get into our discussion of the Season 4 finale, Revelations. Okay, so... they slide in, and a giant sticks his arm through the vortex and yells out for Maggie. I mean, seriously?
It was so over the top.
And, okay, I had to call this out. Shouldn't the vortex cut his arm off? Like, why would the giant be able to pull his arm back through the vortex? Like,
right.
The vortex doesn't work like that.
Well, I assume that the giant maybe knew about sliding and decided to pull his hand back through before it got cut off. That's what I'll go with. I mean, they were supposed to do this once before, if you remember, back with the dino slide, the first dinosaur episode. The dinosaur was going to like try to, get through the vortex, and it was going to be cut off. His arm was going to be cut off or something when they slid through, and it was going to be left there, like severed, because that was like a whole deleted scene thing. But it's like, how are they supposed to do that effect? It would just look bad, unless they did it really, really good.
Yeah,
and, like,
I mean,
yeah.
Well, I was just complaining last episode about breaking their own rules with the time travel.
Yes.
Right? So this whole thing about the giant pulling his arm back through was just so freaking cheesy.
Yeah,
man.
It was bad.
And we saw giants before too on
Oh,
the episode that Maggie was introduced in. They went to a giant people world, and I'm pretty sure we bagged it out then too.
Yeah. Then there was a whole discussion too on the Messages in Time about how a giant world like that just could not exist. The mere physics of it would just not allow it to happen.
Exactly. The gravity of Earth and whatnot,
Right.
There's a reason why humans evolved to the size that we are.
Right.
It's because of the environment we live in. So, yeah, if you slid into a world of giants set up like that, you would probably be crushed under the weight of the gravity of the planet or something.
Right, right, yes.
Like, it's not that hard to figure out the physics of how that wouldn't work. So, again, I'm digging my heels in because it's just starting terrible. But I'm not sure we've actually seen this before. This is something new. 3.5 weeks between slides. I don't think we've ever seen it this long. They may have mentioned it before, that they've spent like a long period of time on a dimension, but I don't think we've actually had an episode where they spent so long in one slide.
They've mentioned it before, and like they sort of like, there was the one where Arturo was running for mayor. That was a longer period too. I don't remember exactly how long it was, and I don't even know if they actually said, but I think we assumed it was a long time for him to actually make his way up in the polls and everything. But the thing was, the pacing was good. It didn't seem like that wasn't supposed to be a boring world. They really wanted to go, full bore and show you that they are so bored in this world. Nothing is happening, So that's why this one's a little bit different.
Yeah, so we get in this whole thing. It's about, I think it was like 10 days later.
Right.
Quinn and Colin are working as mechanics here. And, we talked about it in the trivia. This shifty guy shows up.
Right.
And I kind of just, at this point, since it has nothing to do with anything, I kind of just took it as them getting a bit stir crazy.
Yeah.
That they see this guy and he's looking a bit shifty, so they kind of make up a dangerous backstory for him, sort of maybe there's something exciting could happen. So, just putting that onto it kind of made me feel better. But it's like we said, it really just has nothing to do with anything. And then Maggie just shows up getting fired and or quit her job, and it kind of just keeps rolling along from there.
When that guy showed up, I was like, what does that have to do? What's going on with that guy? But then they never follow up on it, so it's disappointing. And like I said, with the deleted scenes, it's like, yeah, we get that they're bored. You don't need to go this far into it. Like, get into the story. Like, we can assume that there are worlds where nothing happens. We don't need to see those worlds. It's like, just like in, any sci-fi show, we know that they have to go to the bathroom. We know they do, but we don't need to see that. It's not important. We don't need to see a slide where they're doing nothing for 3.5 weeks because it does nothing for the story. It's not interesting to watch.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll tell you now, this actually puts a big smile on my face.
Okay.
Because I am a big fan of cheap, cheesy slasher movies, right?
Okay.
And not a lot of people may know this, but they made sequels to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
Oh.
Okay? The biggest movie of Alfred Hitchcock is Psycho, right?
Right.
Alfred Hitchcock died in 1980, and immediately after he died, they started pumping out sequels to it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the sequels were in color. They were very cheap, very cheesy. But you got to see the motel in its full color glory.
Gotcha.
So immediately I recognized where they were. They are at the Bates Motel, which exists on the Universal backlot. It's there. I've been there. I've taken the Universal backlot tour.
Cool.
So yeah, so I see it and I'm like, is that the Bates Motel from Psycho? And then Quinn makes a reference to it.
Okay.
Maggie goes, oh, I'm going to go take a shower. And he says, oh, well, showers around here attract guys with big knives and cheesy wigs. I'm like, Psycho reference.
When I watched the episode, I was like, I didn't understand that because I'm not I'm not big into the horror films and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. There was a reference to that in the Messages in Time as well.
There you go. So I don't know. I kind of appreciated that. I thought it was quite funny. It was an interesting drop thing. While they try to set up this thing about Remy randomly just getting this sci-fi book. Right. That happens to be all about Cro-Mags and stuff. Like, the odds of that are astronomical, but they need to get there somehow, so why not? But at the same time, I am just smacking my forehead about the idiocy of this thing, right? So, all right, fair enough. Remy's got the book. He's reading it. And he's talking about, wow, there's this race in here called Gromax. And that, man, they sound like Cro-Mags. And the whole time, Colin's in the background, scribbling away on a notepad, feverishly getting into something on his notepad. And he comes out and he's like, you know what? I've rearranged the letters of Gromac, and it spells Cro-Mag.
Yes.
I'm like, you mean you switched the G and the K back to make Cro-Mag from Gromac?
Good job.
Wow. That must have taken you a whole 10 minutes.
Way to go from like the smart Colin from the previous episode to this guy.
It was unbelievable. He looked like he was doing the most complicated calculation there is for it. I'm like, that is dumb. That is dumber than thinking that Italian Bronx Colin was your Colin after hearing him speak. Like, that is dumber than that.
Yes.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. Furious.
How do you really feel, Corey? How do you really feel?
And you know what? I think it makes me so furious too, because this is the last episode.
Yes, that's the biggest thing right there.
With the main characters that we all know and love.
Yes.
They I don't even know the garbage that they're going to make up for season 5 coming.
I don't either.
I watched it once and then put it out of my memory. So you know, we're going to get into it. But I'm so annoyed that this is the stuff they're coming up with to cap off the season.
Well, yeah, for a season finale, this is not a season finale. This is not really well done. In fact, the stinger, the opening part that opens up the whole episode, it even ends with this very boring fade out. It's like they show up in this town to get jobs, and it just sort of fades out, and then the Sliders theme song starts. It's like there was no big revelation at the end of the stinger that sort of makes you interested to watch more. It just sort of faded out. It's like, yeah, There's another episode, last one. Just hang in there. It's almost over, guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not a good season finale at all.
Nah. But, they go ahead and decide they're going to track down the author, Isaac Clarke. And they have to go through, this big, complicated thing to track him down.
Yes.
Cracking me up as well, because Maggie's like, all right, well, I've quit my job. Let's go and spend my money. No, let's take your money and buy a modem and hack the phone records to track calls.
Yes, and buy the reverse directory as well, don't forget.
I mean, this is 1999.
Yes.
They had to go and buy a modem and stuff.
And where do they buy it from in this little town,
Yeah. And it's hack phone directory? What? No, I don't know.
I know. There was something in the deleted scenes. There was a line about how maybe this world is so underdeveloped with, the technology that they wouldn't expect to be hacked. That's why it's so easy for them to hack in, I guess. Whatever.
It's all just very complicated. So
yeah,
it turns out that Isaac Clarke's publisher, his lawyer, and his agent, I think, all called this payphone. They find the payphone. They find a girl accepting calls at the payphone, follow her back to the house where they find Isaac Clarke. But even then, they kind of need to talk their way into the house.
Right.
About telling them who they are and stuff. And it just seems so long, so drawn out.
It is.
It's like you said, they wanted to spend more time here doing stuff like this. This is just taking forever. Exactly. Can we get to Quinn and Colin's home world already? Yes. That should be the focus of this episode.
Should be.
But yeah, and then, once they're there for a really long time.
Yes.
Hanging out, getting to know Catherine.
Yes.
Hearing the story from Isaac Clarke about what happened. And
which, by the way, before we go too far, Isaac Clarke, there's a get for you. There's a guest star.
Yes, he was Deep Throat in X-Files.
He was. I love this guy. I love Jerry Hardin.
Man, the Deep Throat character in X-Files was he was the best.
Yes.
He was a regular in season 1.
Yeah.
And then he sort of came back for special appearances here and there. But, that was a big thing in season 1.
Oh, yeah.
As the Deep Throat character. So you're right. Yeah, huge get for a sci-fi series. I think they telegraph it a lot, that he's BSing them.
Right.
I mean, I saw it coming a mile away. So when, they reveal it later, I was like, well, yeah, it was pretty obvious when you guys were getting ready to slide that he was just feeding you a bunch of BS.
Right.
Because they're preparing to slide, and he comes up and he changes the equation.
Yep.
For the home world.
Weird. Yeah.
And I was like, why would you change it? They know the coordinates for their home world, and they slid there, but got diverted to the slide cage.
Right.
So he comes in, he changes the coordinates for the planet, and then Quinn just says that, oh, I've written these equations to get around the slide cage. And I'm just thinking, well, why haven't you done this already?
Yeah.
You already had the coordinates. If all you needed to do was write equations to get around the slide cage, why did you have to come and find Isaac Clarke?
See, I missed that when I was watching. I didn't think about that, but yeah, that makes sense. If he had these equations, why not go earlier? But the way I'm reasoning that maybe he just finished the equations. Maybe they were still not completely right until, the last couple days or something. I don't know. I try to find ways to explain it off, but I don't know. Yeah, they should have went sooner if they had it,
Yeah, it makes no sense at all. There was no reason to track down Isaac Clarke for this. And because they did that, it ended, they went to the wrong world.
Right, exactly. I thought, oh, well, they're going home. And maybe that's why they finally were able to get past the slide cage, because maybe there was something wrong with the equations or the coordinates. And that's why Isaac was fixing it. That's what I thought at first. I was like, well, maybe he's just trying to fix it, because it's not right. And this is how they can get around the slide cage.
Well, he relates it to the world itself anyway, not the equations that they wrote to get around the slide cage. He corrects him on something, and he goes, Quinn says, "Oh, are you sure?" And he goes, "Well, it's my world. I would know." So I'm like, okay, so that has to be the coordinates for the world.
Right, gotcha.
I'm like, well, no, the coordinates you got from your microdot are correct.
Right.
So why change that? It
True.
didn't make sense at all.
Yep.
Did not make sense. And then this whole thing with him going to find his brother, it turns out the Cro-Mags were actually a downtrodden race on this world, and like the parents are the bad guys. Like, I guess they're kind of like racists, really. Like they, like white supremacists or something. Like kill all Cro-Mags because Cro-Mags are a blight on the planet Earth or something.
Exactly.
Again, I'm just like, whatever. I mean, how'd you feel about it? I mean, I think we've tackled this before. I think at some point Quinn said something about Cro-Mags being good guys, and Remy like lost his shit.
Right.
At Quinn about saying that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. How do you feel about them being on this world where Cro-Mags aren't the bad guys?
Well, I mean, like that's like, so when I was watching it again, I didn't pick up on all the things where they're sort of telegraphing early that it's not their world. I was just like, oh well, this is a different take on it. So everything that he's been told so far has been a lie. The Cro-Mags are not that bad. But then I'm thinking, but they've been bad on so many other worlds. You know, it's like this one world they're good. They're not trying to conquer. Instead, the humans are the ones trying to conquer. I was like, well, all right, I guess, in infinite dimensions, why not have some good guys? But that doesn't fall in line with everything that he's been told. And that's when I started to think, oh, wait, maybe this isn't the right world. Something is a little weird. And then when his parents, see, now I picked up on his parents telegraphing things pretty early, and I was like, oh, wait a second, maybe this isn't the right place. So that's when I picked up on it.
Yeah, like the parents' reaction to the story that they were saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even when he first opened the door and he was like so overjoyed to see Quinn and Colin. I don't know, it was like kind of an overreaction for me. I was like, well, that's a little bit much. What's going on here?
The other thing that threw me too is that early in the episode, Isaac refers to his parents, Colin and Quinn's parents, as Michael and Elizabeth.
Okay.
And then he, of course, once they're on the planet, he gives them the address that he last knew for them. And again, says this was the address for Michael and Elizabeth.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm pretty sure Quinn's mother was named Amanda, right?
It is Amanda, yes.
So I got thinking, well, how about I go back to season 1 on IMDb and see how the mother is credited.
Okay.
And she is just credited as Quinn's mother in season 1, but it was hyperlinked to a character description. So I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and click on that. And I found this character description. This was written 2 years ago by someone called Lucia.
Okay.
And I thought this was fantastic. This is the character profile that Lucia wrote up for Mrs. Mallory. Mrs. Mallory is Quinn's foster mother and is referred to as the double of Quinn's birth mother, even though they don't look alike and have different names. It is later said that she is Quinn's stepmother since she was married to Quinn's father's double. Quinn was placed with his parents' doubles when he was very young, and she and her husband, Quinn's birth father's double, Michael Mallory, raised Quinn. Quinn's birth parents came back for him, but Mrs. Mallory didn't want to lose him, so they hid Quinn and told his birth parents that he had died. Now, I don't know if Lucia was like just garnering some of these facts based on what they were thinking, but I don't get any of that from the show. I always got that Michael and Elizabeth were supposed to be the doubles of Quinn's mother.
Yes, I got that, yes.
So the fact that her name's now Elizabeth for no reason is weird.
Maybe, you know what, it could be that her middle name was Elizabeth, and on this world she just goes by her middle name. That's...
And I guess, well, alternate dimensions too, I guess. She could have just been named Elizabeth instead of Amanda here. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. I love the line. referred to as the double of Quinn's birth mother, even though they don't look alike and have
Right.
different names. You know, it's...
It would have been nice if they had used the original actress who played the mother. The father, I don't really care, you know? But
Yeah.
like the mother, I wish they had used the original actress because she was great.
Well, it just seems that they didn't even bother going back to the previous seasons and finding that the mother was named Amanda.
Right.
And
Such a
giving
small
her
thing.
the name. Yeah. They just didn't care. It's like, oh, was it Elizabeth? Probably. Yeah, let's go with that.
It's like most shows have a Bible that you have when you're writing, you know? Maybe this one just didn't have it, you know?
Yeah. It just makes me feel like the writers don't care. So why
Yeah.
should I care?
Well, exactly.
Just annoying. I'm really getting frustrated on this episode.
You are.
Just talking about, oh my God. So, yeah, you know, the whole thing plays out. They're not home. Remy leaves. They pass the timer on to Remy.
Yes.
The weird thing is that Quinn says to his father, oh, we can get my Earth coordinates for Remy, right? So he can go back home and, you know, fight the Cro-Mag War or something. And I'm like, but the timer can store the information, right?
Yes.
Why did they suddenly not have the coordinates to get back to Earth Prime?
Plot device. That's right.
Again, I'm just like, seriously, like, do you even care? Do you even care about continuity here?
Yeah. No, I know.
Why would they leave Earth Prime if they didn't think they could get back there?
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
No, I know. And the other thing was, why does Remy even need to go back to Isaac? Because he's there. They have the coordinates. Michael Mallory says he has the coordinates in his system. They have the weapon, the plans for the weapon. Why does he need to go back to Isaac at all?
That's right. He goes to the hotel
Yeah,
to
it's
find
like,
Isaac
why?
for no reason.
Yeah, he doesn't have to. Everything's right there. So there's no reason for him to leave yet. Go get the coordinates, get the weapon, and then slide. That's it. You're done.
Yeah, again, plot device. Remy
Yes.
needs to find out that Isaac Clarke is trying to be tracked down by the police.
Right.
So now he knows something's up. It's terrible. It really is. It's terrible writing. So, yeah, he finds out the truth. Isaac Clarke's taking them to the wrong world. Cro-Mags are good guys, blah, 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 blah. Remy needs to get back to them. In the meantime, they all find out that the parents aren't really the parents. They pull guns on them for some reason.
Yes.
Like, after the story they've told you, thinking that you're their real parents.
Yes.
Like, they've got no reason to lie to you.
Right.
You're just going to pull a gun on them?
Like
And
they're
be
not
like,
gonna-
oh, Isaac Clarke's bringing spies, or blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, oh, bugger off. Bugger off. This is stupid.
Yeah, they weren't going to go anywhere. They were just going to hang out. You know, just keep this facade up until the cops get there, you know?
Yeah. They obviously told you the truth. Why can't you just be like, you know, I'm sorry to tell you, but this isn't your real Earth, and we're not
Exactly.
your real parents.
Yes.
Like, they're not bad people. They're not going to try and kill you.
Right.
You don't need a gun. Ugh.
I suppose maybe they think that they're sympathizers as well. Cro-Mag sympathizers, you know?
Yeah. I guess, yeah. Can you really trust a bunch of racist a-holes?
Right.
This is what racist a-holes do. They pull guns on people.
Exactly.
And so they're getting this big chase.
A ridiculous
police.
chase. It's just so long and boring. They're just running. Running
Yeah.
here, running there, running everywhere. Up,
Driving
down.
around in that piece of crap
Yeah.
van. Yeah. Of course, Isaac can't keep up, so he's just like, oh, just go.
Yes.
You know, take the information to my brother. It'll all work out.
Yeah, bring the Mallorys to justice, basically.
Yeah. They split from him. They go to get on a train, but Catherine decides she's going to split away too. She's going to go and do her father's work, get her
Although-
father's work done.
There was a little something there between her and Colin, it seemed like.
Yeah, again, like, who cares?
Exactly.
They had that set up at the beginning, you know,
Yeah.
where it was just like, oh, I've been in your shoes.
Right.
Sort of, yeah, but whatever. So she's gone. So they're on the train. They got like 2 minutes till the slide. Well, we're going to do something. Let's get up on top of the train. That'll buy us the 2 minutes we need.
Mm-hmm.
And now I mentioned this, I think, a couple episodes back.
Yes.
The the thing that irks me the most, out of all the stuff that irks me about this finale, they open up the vortex on top of the train, and it just travels with the train. No. They did this on that stupid one where they had to jump out of the plane.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Like the vortex is just going to travel with you.
Mhm.
Like, no, it's going to open and then it's going to be all the way back there.
And you're out of luck.
It's shocking. It's shocking, and I hate it.
It was a bad ending. It was a very bad. It was just so like that chase scene was so long and drawn out and just boring. You know, just it's a nice bookend since the beginning of the episode was kind of boring, but it was like just a bad long chase, and then to end the episode, oh, let's just slide, boom, done. You know, you assume that the Mallorys are brought to justice. You know. But it's like, it's just kind of like, it's not a good season finale. It's like a season finale should leave you either supremely satisfied or wanting more, and you can't wait for the next season. And this did neither.
Exactly right. Well, I think the last line is just Maggie going, "Oh, I hope you do find your homeworld someday."
Yeah.
That's it.
And he's like, "Me too." It's like, ho hum, me too. It's like, all right.
I mean, like, so many seasons. It's just been like a full arc for the season. So like seasons 1 and 2, they kind of tried to, it was all about finding a way home.
Yeah.
Trying to find your way back home. Season 3, we ended up losing Arturo, and then we had Rickman, you know, and then that was resolved by the end of season 3.
Yes.
So this whole season should have led to finding a way back to Quinn and Colin's home world.
Right.
And then finding another reason to keep sliding for the next season.
Right. Well, like, you know, like we mentioned this before, that this was supposed to be, this whole arc for the season was supposed to be Cro-Mags, and it was supposed to end with the Cro-Mags as well. It was Mark Zickery's idea, you know, that Colin, remember we said Colin was supposed to be like a clone that the Cro-Mags planted. And when they got back here in this episode, Colin was supposed to start acting weird and reveal that he was a Cro-Mag, you know, agent, you know, a plant. And then there was going to be a whole showdown with the Cro-Mags coming in at the very end through the vortexes, because now that Quinn and Colin have made it home, the Cro-Mags can now follow them through and attack this homeworld. So it was going to be very different. This was supposed to be his real homeworld, Colin and Quinn's. This is supposed to be their real homeworld. But because of all the stuff they did with Colin in Lipschitz Live, you know, and they, you know, Mark Zickery was like, all right, I'm done. Peace out. You guys take it here, whatever. You know, like he just gave up. He was like, you have my stories that you bought, use them, write them, whatever you want to do. I want nothing else to do with this. So
yeah, you're right. That should have tied back into it. Something to do with getting the means to defeat the Cro-Mags.
Yeah, because
maybe
that's his drop, isn't it?
inadvertently doing something to bring the Cro-Mags back to their homeworld or something.
Exactly.
You know, something, anything.
Yep.
Instead, it's just like, oh, we're not really on your homeworld. I hope we find it someday. Bye.
Exactly.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was such a lackluster ending.
Lame. Very annoyed. Very, very annoyed with how season 4 ends. And, well, I guess we're going to find out how it's going to go. I honestly cannot remember season 5. Like I said, I watched it through once. Let's just go into it with an open mind, see what they can do with the loss of 2 of our main characters.
Right.
And just see how it goes from here.
The stories that you have to tell of all of your adventures would make a great book. Have you thought of that?
Not really.
We haven't had much time to do anything except keep alive and stay one step ahead of whatever was chasing us.
Well, I guess those adventures are over now, aren't they?
I sure hope so.
What's going on?
When we placed you on separate worlds during the Cro-Mag purges, we did not embed a microchip into a woman's arm, nor did we place another one into a woman's locket.
And there was no slide cage. No need for one. The Mags were completely eliminated from this planet, and if any were foolish enough to return, well, we still have the weapon that my husband and I perfected at Alamogordo.
So I don't know who you are, but you are not our sons. I've just notified the military police, and they will be here in a matter of moments. Isaac Clarke was a convicted traitor who was sentenced to sliding exile. Obviously, by bringing you people here, he's violated that exile, and he may also be responsible for introducing dangerous criminals to this world.
We're not criminals.
Oh, well, why don't we have a nice trial and find out?
These people aren't anything like our parents.
All right, well, let's get into some messages in time.
All right, so they feel like the episode was written so that they could write out Colin and Quinn, you know, with them getting home. But then they changed their mind halfway through and decided to keep Colin and Quinn, just have them all escape together, which I agree. It does seem like that. It's like this started off like an episode where, they're going to finally make it home. Remy's going to be able to go his own way, and Maggie can go her own way if she wants. But then halfway through, they're like, no, we got to keep these guys together. Let's have them all escape. Let's change the story. So I guess they weren't privy to what was going on behind the scenes with the actual storyline.
Yeah.
They felt it was a bit soap opera-y, especially when, the doubles, the parents come out with the guns and they're like, we're not your real parents. Dun, dun, dun. That type of thing. It was a little too cheesy for them.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. They said, someone else mentioned, it looks like the Bates Motel. And they said they looked at it and it looks like the B was kind of rubbed off, so it looks like a G. So they didn't get in trouble for copyright or something someone said. I was like, okay.
Right.
And I don't this more than I do, but Maggie, apparently, when they go inside, she goes into room number 1, which is like the room. Okay.
That's the room, yeah.
All right. Someone else posted a funny little made-up conversation that said, hey, David, let's insult the fans' devotion. Okay, let's do it. It's like talking like the producers behind the scene.
Yeah.
They said, terrible season closer. Nothing was really resolved. The bad dialogue, which you mentioned, hope you find your world, Quinn, Actually, when I watched it this time, it reminded me of that scene in Elf where Buddy's going off to find his father and the narwhal comes up out of the water and he's like, hi, buddy. Hope you find your dad. Like Mr. Narwhal. That's what I thought of when I saw it this time.
Yeah.
It's like, hope you find your world, Quinn. Me too. Thanks, Maggie. They attempted to explain how the vortex works and why it stays with the train, and they went through all these, they went through all these physics and laws of motion and equations and, possible that it sticks itself to the nearest larger object, and that's why it moves with it. That's why it moves with the plane, because it's the largest, thing nearby. Someone else said maybe it's attached to the timer. So wherever the timer is, the vortex stays right there in relation to the timer, which I guess is a possibility. It's all good ways to explain it. But in the end, it's just, they want the spectacle, of jumping off a train or jumping off a plane into the vortex. So
no, it's not going to make me like it anymore.
No.
Nope.
Let's see. There was the post, like I just mentioned, about how the original plan for Colin, was to be a plant. That was written on these forums by Temporal Flux. He was there back in '99 on the Messages in Time forums. So that's kind of cool.
Love your work.
Love your work. Someone said, they're like, what? How do you think the what will the ending of this be like? Because this was from someone who hadn't seen the episode yet, because they were in a different country and it hadn't aired yet. He goes, what do you think the ending will be like of this finale? And someone responded, they're like, it has all the human drama of a Double Mint commercial.
Yeah.
And then another person was, questioning. They were like, I wonder how this show's going to continue without Quinn, because I guess they had heard that he wasn't coming back.
Right.
Like, how will this show continue without Quinn? And someone said, poorly.
Yeah.
Great. Someone else said, what was the revelations? There weren't a whole lot of revelations for this episode for that to be called that.
Good point. Yeah.
And someone else said, well, maybe it was just a bookend title, because the beginning was called Genesis, and now the last episode, Revelations, just like in the Bible. Even though I think in the Bible, is it called Revelation or is it Revelations? I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not religious.
Right. Anyway, someone was saying, you know what? All right, let's just give, I guess they had found out who the new actors were going to be. They said, let's give Robert Floyd and Tembi Locke a chance, although they said they wished that those two actors had been in Sliders from the get-go, because not well-known actors normally would stay for a whole series and not just take off, like Jerry is doing and like John did, even though, he was sort of forced out. So they wished that they had the no-name actors from the beginning, because then they would at least have the consistency.
Yeah, like this is the show that made you, so
exactly.
You got a sense of a sense of respect for where you came from, so you're going to stick with the show that made you.
Exactly. Now we got Messages in Time for roads taken. We've got people saying that they didn't really like the Maggie Quinn relationship because there's not really any chemistry there, but they thought the overall idea was fun, interesting, but they wanted more explanation of how this bubble universe could actually exist. What's the real science behind it?
That's pretty much what we said.
Yeah, and they said they would have liked it better if it was a Quinn and Wade episode, and I agree. Of course.
Yeah.
That would have been much better, much more sense, much more chemistry there. They said the doctor shouldn't have left the room because he's infected as well. So he would have been in quarantine too.
That's
so,
a good point.
Yeah, he shouldn't have left. But this guy who made this post was really, he hated this episode. You know, he said doctor should have left the room, but then he's like, and that crank radio works without cranking later on. The reporter got in the hotel after the quarantine. Like, he didn't realize the reporter was in the episode already in the hotel. And he's like, the romance was stupid. And that's why this episode sucks. And it's as bad as The Breeder, The Chasm, and Paradise Lost. Meh. He was just, he was really down on it, you know, and you can't fault him for a lot of those points.
Yeah.
So they knew at this point when this episode aired that Jerry was leaving, and someone had mentioned Robert Floyd was going to be coming on as someone who merges with Quinn, having his memories, and is going to be named Mallory. So they were just discussing what was coming in the future.
Right. I'm surprised that they knew about this so early. Like,
yeah.
this had been revealed already before season 4 had even ended.
Exactly. Yeah, I wasn't really online back then, so I wasn't privy to any of this. So I didn't know anything about it at all. But apparently some people were. There was more comparisons to the Inner Light, like I brought up.
Mm-hmm.
They said they would like a world where the Sliders learn from the world a different, better way, rather than the Sliders teaching the world a different, better way. You know, because it's always our Sliders, you know, pushing their morals and beliefs on the world to change it. But what if the world is actually a better world and it changes the Sliders? They thought that would be a neat turnaround.
I know, there's like so many times where they've just been like, wow, you know, it was great to be on this world for 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Time to go and get in trouble again. And then the episode starts and you're like, okay, it would have been nice to kind of see this amazing miracle world that you were just on.
Right. Exactly.
But whatever.
Exactly. And then finally someone said they're not sure how the show will survive without Jerry because Maggie and Remy, they're not scientists. They don't understand the timer mechanics. So they apparently didn't know that they were going to get another scientist on board for the next season.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm interested in just getting deeper into season 5. You know, each week we watch the 2 episodes and we discuss it in depth. So going into it with that mindset of, you know, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about it. Maybe we can garner some good from it.
Yeah.
Maybe it is garbage. I don't know. I can't remember. I really can't. But maybe Robert Floyd and Tembi Locke are going to do a really great job, and we can actually appreciate it upon revisiting it. Who knows?
Yeah,
we can hold out hope.
There were a lot more high points in season 4 than I remember. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with season 5.
So that is next week's episodes. We are starting season 5. The first 2 episodes are The Unstuck Man and Applied Physics. So should be interesting.
Oh, wait, we got some messages in time as well.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've read this already, but if I did, you get a repeat. We got a review on iTunes, came in during December. So that's why I can't remember if we mentioned this or not, but it's from North of Eden. And they say, I just discovered your podcast and grateful for you covering one of the better non-Star Trek sci-fi shows out there. Enjoying your discussion and analysis. Keep up the good work. So thank you, North of Eden. We appreciate that.
So I guess after this episode and how poor it was, this last episode, this season finale, I'm holding out hope. For the new season. I'm hoping it could at least be better than this last episode.
Yes, I'm hoping to. All right, well, that is it for this episode of the Rewatch Podcast. Keep up with listener interaction by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast and follow the show on Twitter at rewatchpod. You can also visit our webpage at rewatchpodcast.podomatic.com, which has some of our favorite links there, such as Dimension of Continuity, earthprime.com, and the active forum over at sliders.tv.
And remember, you can always write us an email or record a voice message and send it to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. And if you've enjoyed the show, please consider giving us a rate and review on iTunes. It really helps out the show, helps build listener interaction, and we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to read out your thoughts on the episodes.
Yep.
And also, we would like to draw you to support the Rewatch Podcast by heading over to patreon.com/rewatchpodcast. You can make a monthly contribution to help us keep the lights on around here. You can contribute as little as $1 per month, and that's just going to help support us, pay for things like bandwidth. You know, podcasts aren't free. There's a lot of hosting costs involved.
Like, it starts off, like, when you're just doing a couple episodes, it starts off, you're fine with the free program. But then as you do more episodes, you need more storage, to deliver the future episodes. So
exactly, and it's not breaking the bank or anything, but yeah, the more episodes you do, the more storage you need, the more money it costs. So, if we can just get a few people contributing $1 per month, it just helps keep the lights on around here. And you're showing your support for the show, and, we appreciate it. We put out an episode every week for free. So, if you can spare $1 a month, we'd really appreciate it. So head on over to patreon.com/rewatchpodcast. We've got plans to do a lot more. We want to cover another series once we're done here with Sliders, and of course keep bringing on more movie rewatches as well. So, we really want to expand out and bring you the best show that we can. So thanks for doing that. All right, well, thank you for joining me again, Tom.
Yep.
And I will just say until next time, hey, that 37X should be a 39X.
All right, we got to slide.
The Rewatch podcast is not associated with NBC Universal, St. Clair Entertainment, Fox, or Sci-Fi Channel. The use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes, as provided in United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com.
Copyright 2016, The Rewatch Podcast.
Sliders.